It was a bluebird that led her to find it that sunny morning in the woods. Standing amidst the trees, an abandoned concrete house. Just a barren concrete structure with a door-shaped frame to enter, and a staircase leading nowhere. Ellen Perez walks in, unaware that within these stark walls she'd experience something miraculous, yet remain oblivious to a dark truth that would lead to her disturbing demise. I've discovered something inside an abandoned apartment. According to my friend whose landlord owns the garage the apartment sits on, the previous tenant left without paying rent, leaving a lot behind. Most notably, the boxes, and not the moving kind. This was someone's archive. The contents describe countless unexplained, strange, and disturbing events, some spanning back centuries. Without a trace of involvement from law enforcement, all of this appears to be the work of a private investigator. Most of it refers to actual documentation. Why would someone leave all of this behind? Could it all just be an elaborate hoax? Regardless, I think it's worth sharing. So take a look for yourself as I tell you about a case file I like to call the Angel House. Nothing ever gets deleted on the internet. A phrase we often hear online and is accepted as truth. But is it really the truth, that is? In 1998, the internet was exiting infancy, beginning a trajectory of growth to become the vast archive of human experience we know today. Keeping up with this growth became impossible. Sites like the Internet Archive offer glimpses, but these snapshots are sporadic and incomplete. Many web pages slipped through the cracks, possibly hiding secrets so dark and strange they defy comprehension. I may have recovered one such site. What I found inside are screenshots from the last blog of one user, Nocturnal Chatterbox. On the surface, the entries appear no different than any other blog from that era. But dig a little deeper, and we find Nocturnal describing an encounter with one of the strangest places I have ever heard of. A place she'd soon call the Angel House. The mystery surrounding this bizarre building and the resulting nightmare that followed would remain a cold case lost to the obscurity of cyberspace for the next 26 years. Spanning April to August 1998, these entries from OpenDiary.com chronicle not just her troubled life and strange experiences, but also entries that may well be her last words alive, before the discovery of what became of her. And it all started because Nocturnal Chatterbox couldn't sleep. Nocturnal introduces herself as a 24-year-old female living just outside of Seattle. In her first entry, she describes her blog as a way to cope with insomnia. She's tried anything she can think of for a solution, but nothing works. At night, she wanders the empty streets of her suburb, scales fences at construction sites, hangs out in skate parks, anything to kill time until the sun rises. As a recent dropout of community college, she can't keep a job and is falling behind on the bills. All due, as she claims, to her lack of sleep. Over several months' entries, we learn that Nocturnal has a habit of isolating herself. She describes a messy breakup with an ex stealing his computer, fallouts with friends, and an ongoing noise dispute with her neighbor. But the root of Nocturnal's pain seems to come from her family. Reading between the lines, we infer that Nocturnal's tendency to project her problems onto others has strained her relationship with her sister, mother, and stepfather. Her only sense of belonging comes from her interest in late 90s alternative culture, punk bars, movies, and of course, drugs. References to substance abuse are frequent, and as the entries continue, her writing and spelling reveal her deterioration. It would not be hard to imagine Nocturnal spiraling further and further down if not for the hard left turn in entry 14. A post she titled simply, Blue Jays. Nocturnal was wandering the woods near her apartment, taking photos early that morning. That was until she spotted a blue jay.
My dad and I used to look for them when I was a kid.
Nocturnal wrote in a surprisingly intimate moment, the first ever mentioning her birth father. But just as she was about to take the picture, the blue jay flew away.
I was following it for a bit till I lost it, but then I saw this cool concrete house or building or something. I guess it's been here a while because it was all concrete, but with no roof or windows. It had holes for windows, but no actual glass or anything, and just a frame for a door. It kinda reminded me of something a kid would draw.
There was no furniture, no paint, not even foliage. Just old rain puddles and one concrete staircase in the middle of the building. And on the staircase, a blue jay nest.
The mama jay from before was checking in on her babies. I was a little worried the nest was too low on the stairs, so I moved them up a bit so no coyotes or anything gets to them.
Maybe it was disturbing the nest, or maybe it was a simple act of entering the concrete building itself. Either way, something had changed. Something had happened. That same day, only a few hours later, Nocturnal posted another entry.
There was a weird feeling I had in that house. It was really warm inside. There was this peaceful feeling, and I swear it felt like time just stopped inside and I was just laying in warm sand.
Contained within the floppy disk, along with the recovered files, were 3 photographs and a Polaroid, presumably collected by the investigator. The Polaroid was likely scanned with the original tape still attached, and it appears as if it had been once affixed to a wall. It is the only image of Nocturnal herself. The first photo shows the inside of the concrete structure, with light streams through a large empty window frame. Trees and greenery are visible outside, suggesting the building is in a forested area. And the second photo shows a concrete staircase leading up to nowhere. And the third is a blurry photo of the blue jay's nest on a concrete step with 2 blue eggs inside. What the original purpose of this all-concrete building or house is unfortunately no more clearer with these images than before. And much like everything else in this case, a reverse image search comes back with 0 results. After discovering the concrete building and taking the photos, an unexpected change was happening to Nocturnal. For the first time in what must have felt like ages, she slept.
It was only a few more hours than my usual 1 or 2, but I'll take what I can get.
Soon those few hours turned into full nights of complete rest, and for Nocturnal, this was nothing short of a miracle. However, something else came with it, the recurring dreams.
I keep having the same dream every time I get any sleep now. It always starts in the woods in front of that concrete house I found. And every time I start walking towards it, I don't know. I don't like it.
Ellen shrugs it off as side effects of her newfound rest, thinking it best not to fixate on. But as the posts continued, so did the dreams.
I have these vivid memories of being 4 or 5 and sleeping on my dad's shoulders as he carried me inside my grandma's cabin in Colorado. I was there again last night in my dream, being carried in my dad's arms. But like right when I opened my eyes inside my grandma's house, it was the concrete house instead. But like still that same warmth like grandma's. I remember turning and my dad was gone and I'm just there, alone. I can't explain it, but even in my dreams, I feel that warm feeling. Like the house knows, or something.
Nights like these persisted, drawing Nocturnal back through her vivid memories, only to find each memory was recontextualized within the concrete house in the woods, and the staircase in the center leading up to nowhere. Desperate, she scoured the woods to relocate the concrete house, hoping it would stop the dreams, but it was nowhere to be found. Eventually, the searching just stops. The concrete house had become her new purgatory. Every single night. Things seemed to return to normal for Nocturnal. In fact, better than normal. In a twist of fate, she seemed to be thriving. After a month of continuous rest and self-reflection, Nocturnal has started new healthy routines, waking up early to exercise and meditate. She reflects on her previous posts with deep shame, acknowledging her struggles with addiction and depression. Taking accountability for her fights with loved ones, she gains profound self-awareness. Nocturnal develops a love of literature, writing about her favorite books and their impact on her. At the library, she meets Nathan, a shy, smart librarian who she soon begins to date. He seems to be everything she had ever wanted in a partner. They talk philosophy and spirituality on their many dates to local museums and coffee shops. Nocturnal takes up the piano, practicing daily until she can perform Rachmaninoff and Mozart effortlessly. Encouraged by Nathan, she applies to college for a degree in humanities. In her second to last post, she reflects on her new life.
It fills me with such joy to get my life so on track like this. I have never felt better or more healthy in my entire life.
4 months after her first post, Nocturnal Chatterbox has conquered her insomnia and undergone a profound metamorphosis, becoming the embodiment of her aspirations. Perhaps Nocturnal had finally gotten her life together all on her own, or perhaps it was all thanks to the concrete house with a bluebird nest on its stairs. The Angel House. Except that wasn't what it was always called. Within the case file was more than just the floppy disk. While Nocturnal Chatterbox was writing her entries, she was not alone. The investigator who assembled the case file had tracked down the author of the blog posts. Her name was Ellen Perez, and they'd been watching her for weeks. Every night and every morning, as Nocturnal sought to relocate the Angel House, our investigator was there, waiting The primary strategy was not to interface with the host directly, but instead observe from a distance in hopes she might lead to the location of Pleuron 04 prior to its disappearance. Pleuron 04. Nocturnal Chatterbox Ellen Perez had her life seemingly changed by her encounter with the Angel House. But whatever it is, this investigator and presumably the organization they worked for were already well aware of its existence. They even had a different name for it entirely. And for reasons which are never fully explained in the report, they were very interested in finding it. Investigators set out with the primary intention to locate, verify, and if possible neutralize Pleuron 04 for further study. This would first be accomplished by locating the suspected host, Open Diary user, Nocturnal Chatterbox. With every new entry, the investigator was there, following along, reading every word, watching her every action. Until one day, Ellen stopped leaving her apartment. Soon after surveillance was established, observable activity at host's residence ceased, suggesting host was no longer leaving her residence. Yet, she had continued to post as if she was writing about her trips to the library, visits to her sister and mother, and her morning exercises. Investigator was unable to verify that any of these activities in fact occurred, and the veracity of the blog entries had at that stage been called into question. Until finally, the entries themselves just stop. 5 days have now passed since Ellen last posted. The investigator decided it was finally time to intervene, and what he witnessed, I will admit, gives me knots in my stomach. The first thing they saw were the flies. Hundreds swarmed the windows. Then came the smell. Sickly sweet. The apartment was cloaked in a thick layer of dust. All the food moldy and beyond expiration. On the floor, a bare set of footprints trailed back and forth between the bedroom and computer desk. Yet none at any exits. The computer screen illuminated dimly, the keyboard and chair the only objects untouched by the dust. Host's corpse was discovered in the bedroom, where the body lay severely emaciated on a sheetless mattress. Both in texture and color, the epidermis and organs were severely dehydrated, approaching mummification. It should be noted that, had it not been for the most recent entry 5 days prior, this discovery would have indicated a corpse which had been dead for months, if not years. Emaciated and mummified. Had Ellen stopped leaving her house and stopped eating? Could her insomnia had finally become so severe that she developed some sort of anorexic delirium? But even if Ellen died from malnutrition immediately after her last post, 5 days is nowhere near enough time to reach a state of mummification. What exactly was the investigator suggesting? Either Ellie's corpse had deteriorated at a strangely rapid pace, or somehow this is also how she looked when she was alive. 5 days before her corpse was found, Ellie's final post paints a vivid picture of life on the cusp of an idealistic future. While hearing these words, remember Ellie's physical state. Severely emaciated, her body desiccated almost to the point of mummification. Yet, somehow, just days before her discovery, she was still writing. Still expressing joy.
I am so overwhelmed and joyful that I could burst into tears at any given moment. I opened the letters today and found out I made it into Washington University. This is everything I have asked for. my life changed the morning I found you, and the tree of their life they had placed in the midst of paradise. Nathan proposed yesterday. My sister, mom, and stepdad all showed up alongside so many old and new friends. Erica, Lexi, even Jenny, my old friend from middle school, was there. I have discovered an unparalleled depth of love and fulfillment I could never have imagined possible before. I am full of your warm grace and ever thankful. I miss you dearly, Dad, and only wish you could see me now. I will save you a seat at the wedding in the fall. Tonight, I ascend to the top of the stairs.
Behind the joy in her final words, it's almost as if she knew she was saying goodbye. Whatever exists at the top of those stairs, whatever was really behind the bizarre nature of her demise, may forever remain a mystery. However, as we dig deeper into the investigator's report, details about the true nature of the Angel House begin to emerge. Immediately, several clues stand out. The details of this location described by Perez, along with the observations made by Investigator, correlate strongly with previous observed phenomena known as HD Pleron 04, for which this report speculates that Perez became a host. What is an HD Pleron 04? 04 suggests whatever an HD Pleron is, this one is not the first. Additionally, HD could stand for any number of different things, but Pleron, now that's something we can look up. Pleroma, fullness, completeness, but of what? And what about this mention of the Gnostics? Gnosticism seems like a bizarre direction for this organization to reference. But then again, across all of these files, their interests are, well, otherworldly. In Ellie's second to last entry, she does reference something that admittedly I didn't pay much attention to at first, but going back now, I can't help but feel it may be related. I wish everyone could feel like this, but I know I have been chosen by Saklis for a purpose. According to Wikipedia, Saklis is another name for Yaldabaoth, a malevolent god and demiurge, creator of the material world. How does the Angel House fit into all of this? Is the Angel House some sort of extension or creation of this demiurge? Whether or not the organization believed that this HD Pleron 04 was directly related to Gnosticism is unknown, but the reference to it seems hard to ignore. Another observation from the investigator's report that needs to be addressed. They consistently refer to Ellie as a host, as if the Angel House has somehow attached itself to her, like some sort of parasite, perhaps connecting us back to this idea of fullness from before. In Michigan, 1981, a group of self-identified urban explorers reported an encounter with an anomalous concrete structure within a subterranean level of an abandoned industrial complex, with one of the subjects describing it as a beautiful beacon of hope hidden in the belly of this crumbling shithole. Attempts to lead back to the structure were unsuccessful. In 1964 Tibet, an American pilgrim claimed discovery of a place he called the Palace of Shenha Akar in the wilderness near Mount, a place of religious significance to several traditions in the region. Neither the observing subject nor the location described could be located. The Tibet encounter stands out most in how it mirrors Ellie's experience, with the subject describing it in religious terms. Could this angel house, or Palace of Shinla Okar or Pleuron 04 evoke a spiritual reaction, almost like a prismatic chameleon. Another thing I've noticed, look at the dates. 1964, 1981, 1998. 17 years. Is this coincidence or a pattern? There's something else in nature that appears every 17 years. Cicadas. This prime number is an evolutionary adaptation to avoid predators by emerging at intervals that minimize overlap with their cycles. Is something similar happening with the Angel House? The investigator's conclusion seems to suggest cycles. All attempts to locate and study Pleuron 04 by Investigator have failed. Due to the demise of the host prior to acquisition of Pleuron 04 location, it can be surmised that the feeding process successfully reached its final stage. Precedent and pattern would suggest Pleuron 04 is unlikely to reappear until the next cycle. So, whatever the Angel House is, it has a host. It feeds. It appears in cycles. It's not a place. The Angel House is an entity. And if it appears every 17 years, its next appearance after 1998 was in 2015. If all of this is to be believed, maybe it's only a matter of time until their story is discovered as well. Finally, as we step back and examine the entirety of this narrative, we're faced with a troubling reality. Our understanding of this case file relies on the accounts of a person with questionable credibility, along with a supposedly contemporaneous investigator's report from an organization we know next to nothing about. I don't doubt that Ellie encountered an unusual structure in the woods. Many hikers have. But to conclude her death was caused by some angelic or Gnostic entity is a bit of a leap. Instead, we face a chilling truth. A truth about human loneliness and the lengths we go to escape it. Ellie was deeply troubled, seeking refuge in a digital world where truth and fiction blend. Through this escape, she could live an idealized version of herself, free from the pain and isolation of her true reality. And truthfully, I can relate. I think we all can. Whether the Angel House exists is uncertain, but what remains undeniable is the sobering reminder that behind every screen lies a human heart grappling with real emotions, and sometimes profound loneliness. And in this vulnerability, an ever-present darkness looms, waiting patiently for its next victim. Thank you so much for watching, and please consider subscribing. There's a lot more to uncover here, and I'd love for you to be there when we do. Until next time, take care.